Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You got to learn how to network if you want to be successful. Build a network for yourself. Have connections. That's what that means. Have a Rolodex. Have a bunch of phone numbers in your phone. Good connections. It's really important in business. It's important in life also. If you want to be successful in life, you want to have good connections. I mean, I can think of a million scenarios to illustrate the point. But to start off with, it really takes a certain type of social skill. You have to be able to turn on the charm in a certain way and not come across fake. Try building connections in your field of work, wherever you work now. Now, if you work at Subway or McDonald's, I don't know what to tell you. But if you're at a legitimate job, you can get to know suppliers, the shipping people, the delivery trucks that pick stuff up or drop stuff off. You can get to know people in other departments. This can really help you out if you have any kind of product or service that has to go through different channels, especially if it feels like a large company and it feels like that there's a little bit of bureaucracy, company bureaucracy that goes on. You can be able to maneuver pretty well if you know people in different departments. Get to know people in other industries. Get to know people that have the same job as you but at a different company. Get to know your competition. Get to know the manager down at the competition. That may help you out on a day where you get fired or you decided to quit and you say, fuck this job, I can't take it anymore. Well, you have someplace to go. You go right over to the competition, get yourself a job for twice as much money. It's all about who you know in this world. I mean, I learned this in the streets. I tell you, I had first moved to a Mexican barrio called the Beach Flats. It was in the central coast of California in Santa Cruz. And back in the old days, in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, Beach Flats, that barrio, that community was very dangerous and it was overrun. The neighborhood was packed. I mean, just packed with people. And you can just imagine there'd be anywhere from 2 to 14 people in each apartment. You could have 9 people living in a 1-bedroom or a studio apartment. You have thousands of people that live on the block that I lived on. It was a 6-block by 6-block gangland. When I first moved down there, it was a little intimidating trying to navigate, just even going to the car. You had to park on the street. I didn't have a driveway. The apartment building I had didn't have a parking for it, so you had to just fight for a spot on the street. There'd be people scratching, graffiti, painting up, tagging your car. People would slash your tires. I had my tires slashed, all 4 tires, and they got the sidewalls, which sucked. I had big, giant Super Swamper fucking tires on my truck, and they got the sidewalls on those things. Just idiot fucking little gangbanger kids. There was a car bombing on my block, stabbings. It was just 24 hours a day. Why did I live down there? Because it's the only way I could afford to live. California is an expensive goddamn place. Look into it. It was intimidating. I didn't know if I was going to be able to really hack living down there, and I didn't have a lot of other choices. I didn't know what to do. One day as I was walking to the store, and I was a horrible drinker back in those days. I used to go to the liquor store at least once or twice a day, sometimes twice a day. Spend hours upon hours at the bar. But whatever I was doing, I was always drinking. And one day as I was walking to the liquor store to pick up some beer, pick up a case of beer, I just kind of gave a nod and said hello, a quick hi, to a older Mexican man that was just sitting with some of his friends on chairs out in front of a small apartment that was pretty close in vicinity to the convenience store where I bought my booze at. And when I would walk to that convenience store, turn the corner, go down the block, and those older men would be sitting there just chatting, smoking cigars, and hanging out. And I kind of got into a rhythm with it with this one guy, and he was very smiley, very charismatic, very nice, spoke clear English without an accent, but also spoke Spanish because he was Mexican. So he became just kind of one of these, how you doing, kind of thing every time I went to the store. And I was going to the store every day, sometimes twice a day. So I'd see this guy all the time. He's always there. Him and his friends, a bunch of older guys. I was in my early 20s. These guys were in their 40s. Long story short, one day the guy got up and said, "Where you live, around the corner?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's just like, "I know what building you live in. I had my eye on you." And he's like, "I'm gonna walk with you. We're gonna talk a little bit." He said goodbye to his friends. His friends all gave me handshakes. And as I shook hands with all those old guys, some of the gang members that were lurking on the block witnessed that. And as I walked up the block with this guy Pedro, gang members would just kind of come out of the woodworks like fucking cockroaches. As he would just kind of glide down the street like Michael Jackson. He just kind of floated down the street, this guy. He had a very cool way to walk. People would just they'd come running across the street, want to shake his hand. Turns out he was the Don of the neighborhood. The Mexican mafia is structured very similar to the Italian mafia because the Mexicans idolized the Italian mafia and they wanted to start their organization in the same way. So they even have the Black Hand, what do they call it, Mano Negro or something like that, but it's the Black Hand. These guys will get that Black Hand tattooed on them. The Italian mafia was also called the Black Hand, so that's just kind of a nod to them. But this guy was a boss, the boss of the neighborhood. He ran the neighborhood. Now there was always somebody above. I'm not trying to say this guy was Al Capone. He's just a captain of a neighborhood. He started doing these same walks with me, and he'd walk me back to my apartment. We'd sit on the front porch of my building and just kind of chat for a minute. I'd give him a beer. We'd sit there and drink a beer together, and he would eventually just be like, "All right, man," and he'd always have people coming up to him just constantly, a steady stream of people coming up to this guy constantly. And every time someone would come up to him, if I'm standing next to him, they come to me with the same respect. "How you doing? How you doing?" Bowing down almost. You never seen a gang member, guys with tattoos on their face, never seen a gang member be so respectful. It blew my mind. And after, I would say about 2 weeks of these walk and talks with Pedro, not only did me and Pedro become very good friends, real good buddies, but all the intimidating gangsters in the neighborhood that I had been worried about embraced me. Now, that may not always be a good thing, because these guys are criminals and they're always looking for a way to scam you, to run a con on you, to not rob you or anything, but to get you involved in something shady. These guys are racketeers. I'm slick. I was from the streets. You can't out-con a con. You can't out-fox a fox. I run the same scam back on you. But it really helped. I never joined the Mexican mafia because I'm white. But I can honestly say that I was proudly friends with these guys, really good friends with the shot callers. And in kind of like a chain of command and respect kind of thing, the street soldiers who were lurking everywhere on the block, and those are those little bandana wearing guys with their shirts done up, they all became less of a threat and became my friends. Within a year or two, I was just a regular part of the family, and it was actually a great place to live. That experience could have been a bad experience for me of living down there. It could have gone a completely different way. I was stuck down there. I wasn't some anthropologist like Jane Goodall trying to write a fucking thesis on what it was like in the ghetto. I was a poor white boy who had nowhere else to go, and that's the option. Take your choice. This hood or that hood. I chose this hood. Could have been bad. Yeah, I had my car broken into. Had my tires slashed. That's pretty minor. Could have been killed. Could have been stabbed. Could have been, who knows? It just goes on and on of the dangers that could have happened to me. And it was actually a great experience. I look back on that time of my life, even though parts of it were bad. I was a horrible addict with all the problems of addiction. I was a criminal, which is not a good lifestyle. I had a negative mindset. So I was a pretty doom and gloom kind of guy, a pretty negative guy, pretty high-strung, intense person. I wasn't a wonderful guy. But that experience could have sent me to prison living there. It could have put me in a coffin. Instead, I look back on it as a rather nostalgic time of my life. Hanging out in the streets, having a lot of friends, being around a certain kind of machismo, certain kind of masculine gangster that I had always idolized. And it was just kind of nice to be accepted by them rather than preyed upon by them. It's all about who you know. You can go really far in business if you know the right people. I just met a guy today at the gym, just casually chatting. Turns out this guy is a major player in the flat track American Motorcycle Association and vintage motorcycle community. He has all the connections. He's been heavily involved in that scene for the last 45, 50 years, my whole life. This is the guy that you want to know. This meeting that contact, having him as a connection, brings me to another level of the game that I'm in. It's all about who you know in this world. Learn to network. Smile. Be honest. Don't lie about what your capabilities are. Just have an eager sense of natural kind of curiosity. And people that are ahead of you will take you under their wing, will throw you scraps, will bring you into the fold. You might get that job ahead of the other guy simply because you know the right people. You might be able to buy that house before those other people. There's a lot of waiting lists and fights for real estate right now. You might get that house if you know the right real estate agent. Know lawyers, know business owners, make friends with business owners everywhere you go. I don't care if it's a deli or a drugstore. I don't care what kind of business it is. Get to know the managers and the owners. These connections should fill your phone book, and that's gold. Never lose them. Cultivate that shit. Thanks for watching.